it's about educating the people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've ever been with a company that trained as much.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've got to be without a plumber at least once a week. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, somebody's in training.
And not just training there, but like flying out of town to go to another state
you
and
bet.
train. Yeah, they invest very heavily in that, and that's they truly believe in it.
Well,
and look what's happening. I mean,
it shows.
Yeah,
Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks.
So what did you learn in your wrestling career that makes you such a good service manager, that makes you good with people?
You can't quit. You can't give up. I mean, it teaches you discipline and to fight through the hard times. And no matter what, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to get up and keep moving. You know, nobody's going to do it for you.
Are there days throughout your career that you wanted to? I mean, I know that I've had
my wrestling career or my
no that you wanted to give up in the plumbing.
Oh, sure. You go through different stages. I mean, when I was an apprentice, it was my first day on the job. I mean, very first day, and I'm hand digging a grease trap at a gas station.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm surprised I didn't quit that day. I mean, it was just the nastiest, smelliest thing you've ever.
So you're digging a grease trap that's already there.
Yeah,
you're digging. Oh, that's the worst part. We're digging
it up,
and by then they're rotted out and grease is everywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to quit that day. So I mean, there's different times in your career that, I mean, things just get overwhelmingly hard. And I think it's normal. Somebody wants to say, hey, it's time for me to get out of here. But then you just buckle down and say, no, I'm not going to let that happen.
So when that's your first day, how do you get up the next day and come back and say, okay, we're here to do it again?
I was dedicated, you know, in the very beginning to make sure that I didn't fall into the same boat I was in prior, because I'd been in retail before that. I don't have a college degree. So
most of us in the trades don't.
Yeah, and I had worked myself up all the way to the top and was laid off with no severance, nothing to fall back on. I had just built our dream home in Rowlett and living there. So I knew I needed to get into something that would never happen again. That was over 20 years ago. So
yeah. Are you glad you stuck with it now?
Oh, it's the best decision I ever made.
How did you find your first plumbing job, your first apprentice job, helper job?
I went through a temp agency, and they sent me to this guy that it was just warehouse work. I was just looking for anything at that point. After he interviewed me, he said, it really sounds like you want to work with water and stuff like that. He said, I've got a good friend who owns a plumbing company. Let me refer you over there to him. Got a call the next day after I sent my resume over, and that's where it began.
First day you dig a grease trap.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming it's service work, not new construction.
Right.
You bet. No, I get that. I knew where you're going. So what other kind of jobs did you do in the beginning that made you think, hey, you know, this really is kind of neat? Because I know the grease trap digging was not it.
No. And
that's not what draws you into the trade and keeps you forever.
I knew when I went home that day, I was like, if it doesn't get any worse than that, I think I'll be okay if I got that out of the way really quick. After that, I was an apprentice we did insurance work. It was slab and water sewer leaks, and under the slab, it was all insurance. So being able to diagnose it and, you know, map it out and do all that good stuff. I did that for about a year.
We tend to do a lot of that here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily you worked with a plumber that apparently knew about it, could train you how to do it and teach you how to do it and things like that. A lot of kids these days aren't learning that. The plumbers they work with don't do it, or the plumbers that work with say, look, we don't know how to do that, or we don't have the equipment, whatever it is. There's a million different reasons. That to me is just number one, intriguing. It is like, wow, this is just cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We have Superman powers then. We look under slabs and say, there it is right
there.
Boom,
it's right there.
Yeah, it is right there. How long does it take you to get good at that?
It takes some time. I mean, it takes a trained ear. You have to be able to listen and know if it's coming up in a manifold, if it's echoing. That was the biggest fear of doing that. A lot of plumbers that know how to do it will tell you, don't get into that part because it can come back and bite you.
Oh, it can.
Yeah.
It's hard to be Superman.
Right.
It's hard to look under a concrete slab and say it is right there.
Right.
And if you're a plumber and you're listening, don't ever say, I guarantee it.
No.
It's impossible.
The second you do.
Yeah, it'll be 30 feet away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe in the neighbor's house.
Right.
It can be off that
And you
far.
can, I mean, even if you think it's right there, and that's what's happened to me. I mean, usually it's about 12 inches off, somewhere
You
right.
bet.
It's right there, but it's just not right exactly there.
Mhm.
I think I've had it one time on the slab where I actually hammered down, turned the water on, and that stream of water came straight out of that
I
hole.
love that.
That's a great
I
feeling.
love that. Yes. Yeah. What about your apprenticeship just made you think, man, look, I want to keep coming back. I want to learn to get better at this.
I think the company I was with, the culture they had, it was more of a family culture, and everybody helped everybody out. I enjoyed going in. I really did. I loved it to death. The people that they didn't treat me. I was one of the lucky ones where I wasn't treated bad as an apprentice. I mean, the plumber I was with
Didn't scream and yell at you.
didn't
beat
scream and
you.
yell. If we were digging, we split it. I mean, he helped me do it as well.
It's a good thing.
So I've always tried to pay forward with that, with what I'm running, to never disrespect an apprentice, period.
You've worked for a few different companies since then.
Mm-hmm.
How many companies do you find around like that?
There are very few.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah. I can count them on one hand.
What do you think makes a company good to work for? Because, I tell people all the time about getting in the trades,
Mm-hmm.
but then I get messages all the time from people like, look, I got in from a guy that screams and yells at me. If I'm 5 seconds late, he won't let me work that day. If this happens, there's a million things. How do you develop that culture in a company? How does the owner, the manager, because it takes everybody. It's not just
It
one
starts
person.
at the top.
You bet.
And it's a message that they have to preach, and everybody has to buy in. You have to be very picky on who you hire and who you bring in. They've got to have the right attitude, the right personality to be able to fit in with all your guys.
When you hire apprentices these days, do they come in with the same mindset you came in with?
No, it's a different generation.
It is. And I know that because I know the ones that I've hired over the years.
Right.
If there's somebody out there listening right now that says, look, I don't know anything in the world about plumbing,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to be a plumber.
Mm-hmm.
And number one, that beats the heck out of going to college. They can go to an open shop company. They can go to the union. There's a million different ways to get in.
Mm-hmm.
But what mindset would you tell them to walk in with? What does it take to come in and win?
You have to have an open mindset. You have to be like a sponge. You're ready to learn, and anything is possible. The number one thing you're going to have to do is learn to communicate, because that's where it's at these days. You have to be able to be very clear and very good with a customer, because they're going to judge you the second they see you.
Oh, yeah. But before you ever make it to the
Right.
door.
Yeah.
They've got to be good at communication. So everybody listening knows communication's not just talking.
No, it's body language. It's everything.
And it's listening.
Yeah.
It's funny because, and I talk about this a lot, we're taught in school how to read,
Mhm.
how to write, how to talk, how to speak. Nobody teaches anybody how to listen.
Nope.
And that is just the most important thing, is to understand that there's times to just keep the lips together, listen to what's being said.
Mhm.
And when I'm working with people about that part of it, I always tell them, look, listen to repeat. Stop and listen well enough that you can repeat back and say, okay, so Mr. Carpenter, what I heard you say is
Mhm.
that you've tried this before. You've had 3 other companies come out to try to fix this before. You've spent a lot of money before, but you still don't have the problem resolved. Am I correct?
That's exactly what you do,
You bet. And
because
man,
they're looking to be validated.
Mhm.
And once you get that and they feel that, you've got their attention.
I've gone through high performance coaching with Brendan Burchard and all that
Mhm.
with his group. And one thing he says, when you look at people, when you see people, pretend they have see me, hear me, acknowledge me, and love me written on their forehead.
Mhm.
Man, I try and tell service people, look, you look at people and treat them like that, you're going to have customers forever.
True.
I spoke at a real estate event, and one of the speakers after me got up and spoke. And one of the first things he says is, look, fall in love with your customers, because you'll never treat them wrong. Never do the wrong thing. I'm like, man, what a way to look at it.
Mhm.
They pay for our livelihood. They pay for every single
Absolutely.
thing we do. So let's go ahead and tell everybody who you are. We kind of got into this a little further than I thought, but tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Sure. Randy Carpenter.
Mhm.
I'm the plumbing manager at Rescue Air Plumbing. I've been there for about a little bit under 2 years now. Growing company. We're doing great. So,
Man, it is.
Yeah.
It's getting bigger every day.
yeah, it's amazing.
You know, I've literally watched it double now, almost triple in size in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago this month, they took on plumbing,
Mhm.
bought Texas Green Plumbing.
Mhm.
I've literally just watched it double and now almost not quite double again, but grow that much again.
Almost, yeah.
It is almost tripled in size in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. With very little turnover.
I know.
That's the thing.
Man, that's magic. I
Mhm.
mean, you look at both sides, the HVAC side, the plumbing side, always looking for plumbers,
Mhm.
always looking for HVAC techs, always looking for installers. There's not a lot of companies that just bring people in and don't turn over a lot like that.
No, and that's what, like I was saying, it comes from the top. It's
Mhm.
the attitude that's when you can get your master's. And I just kind of, blew him off a little bit, but I mean, it was literally every single day. And then I finally looked at him. I said, Michael, I'll go get it, but you're going to pay for my
You bet.
prep course. And so he goes, well, why didn't you just say that?
Yeah. And that's one thing. Look, I love being there and part of it because it's about educating the people.
Mhm.
I don't know that I've ever been with a company that trained as much.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've got to be without a plumber at least once a week. It's
Mhm.
like, hey, somebody's in training. Somebody's in training.
And not just training there, but like
Oh, yeah.
flying out of town to go to another state
you
and
bet.
train. Yeah. They invest very heavily in that. And they truly believe in it.
Well,
And look what's happening. I mean,
it shows.
yeah.
But that's one thing too. Improve yourself. That's going to make you better at your job.
Mhm.
Don't worry about improving your job. Don't invest in just everything about work. As we grow, we've got to become better people to go from a X company to a 3X company.
Right. And you can't do what you were doing.
It doesn't.
And on the
It's going to
smaller
keep you
end-
right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another thing is I know I'm making it look all sparkly and everything else, but when you come in to our company, yeah, they invest all this money in you, but there's expectations on that as well that
You
we
bet.
set very clearly from the
Mhm.
beginning. You have to grow. If you're not growing, you won't make it
No,
here
you're going to get left behind real
Right.
quick.
very quickly.
I've worked at a few companies along the way. I mean, I've
Mhm.
done this 43 years, and not just all plumbing companies.
Right.
You know, I got out. You've done different things before you got into plumbing.
Mhm.
I got out of plumbing 3 or 4 times
Mhm.
and became a cosmetologist, a massage therapist, a bouncer, a bodyguard, and a lot of this stuff I did full time. Part of it I did part time because I wanted to make extra money.
Right.
I don't think I've ever been with any company that invested as much,
Mm.
invested as much in training. And it's not always training. Sometimes it's workshops. It's improve this, come in and
Right.
actually hands-on work on this.
Mhm.
Even before we sold, flew into Tampa, drove up to Sarasota and went to this business planning workshop. And they're like, what are the numbers on plumbing? What is this? What is this? What is this? We're
Mhm.
trying to put together projections for next year.
Mhm.
It's like, man, here's what we've been doing. It's like, well, can we increase that 20%? Can we do this? Can we do this? It's like, yeah, here's what we need. Here's what it looked like. Here's how we do it.
It's eye opening.
It's like, wow, this is like how big boy companies do it.
Right.
And it was a trip.
Mhm. I went through the same training last year, and the numbers they were throwing at us, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's gonna be tough. And then it starts happening, and you're like,
You're right in the
I'm
middle of
keeping
it.
my mouth shut.
Yeah,
from here out.
I know it's a trip, isn't it? But if you're not projecting growth in a company, you're not going to grow.
No,
If you're just like, let's just keep showing up, doing what we've been doing,
right.
that's what you're going to get.
And that's his mindset. That's Josh's mindset. And the first company I worked for, the owner there, that was his mindset. You're either growing or you're falling back. There's no in between of just being, still.
Mhm.
You're either falling back or you're growing, one or the other. So it's something you got to think about and do every day.
To get that mindset, okay? Because, Josh and I've had some wonderful conversations.
Mhm.
Josh wanted to be a great businessman.
Mhm.
Studies business every day. Okay. every single day.
What are you reading? What are you reading right now?
Yeah. What are you reading? Because here's what I'm reading. Have you heard this? Here, read this.
And
try this.
You better have something you're reading.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're not, he's in your ear.
You're getting behind.
Mm-hmm.
Look, while you were wanting to be a great businessman, I wanted to be a great plumber.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to learn every master endorsement. I want to learn MedGas. I want to learn WSPS. I want to learn the fire protection system. I want to learn it all. And I look back, and that's one thing that I will say to anybody getting in the trades right now. Look, think about business. What can you learn to get better at business?
Mm-hmm.
Have you worked with other companies that were as business-minded? I know the first one, but how long did you stay at the first company?
About 9 years.
I don't know that I've ever stayed at a company 9 years. Just saying.
Well, and you have to understand too, I loved it during my first year of apprenticeship. Then I started wrestling, and that kind of took over there. So to me, and I went through that stage where it was just kind of a paycheck for a while because I was really enjoying the wrestling part, and they supported that. So that's another reason why it made it so good for me. It worked out.
If you're enjoying the Trade Talks, hit that subscribe or follow button, which helps us produce this awesome blue collar content absolutely free. And now back to the episode.
I was one of those people, plumbers have a bad rap anyway.
You bet. Okay, so wait a minute. What's the bad rap plumbers have?
Dirty, smelly. Anytime you have if you
Stupid,
tell somebody
not very smart, uneducated.
Right. Anytime you tell someone you're a plumber, first thing they think,
oh yeah,
is sewer.
You bet.
And poop and ooh, that's gross. I was one of those guys. I mean, I really was. So it took a little while for me to finally come to and say, you know what? This is a good living. And it's a lot of hard work, and it should be very respected. People just don't do it.
And there are days it's hard.
Yeah.
You're on a shovel, you're digging a grease trap first day. There are days it's hard, but they're not like that every day.
No. And even on the hard days, I mean, you go home, at night when you put
jump
your
in
head
a shower
down,
and wash it off.
Yeah. And it's like you're tired from a hard day's work and you feel very accomplished.
I was going to say, God, doesn't that feel good?
Yeah.
I used to love that. I mean, and like you said, it's not every day.
Mm-mm.
But man, the days that you go home, that you're literally like, look, I installed 300 feet of 10-inch cast iron pipe today.
Mm-hmm.
And your back hurts and your legs hurt and your butt hurts. Your hands hurt. But everything hurts.
That bed feels so good.
Man, you climb in and you just, it is like that. Let's think about this. Outside of the trades, kid goes to college and comes home, gets a job. 20 to 40 years later, you got 20, I got 40. 20 to 40 years later, do you think they have many days where they come in and they're like exhausted and wore out and climb in bed like that same feeling?
Not in that way. I mean, they may be mentally drained at that point. The physical part, nothing beats that. To me.
No, I feel the exact same way. And, people ask me a lot, what about kids that come out of school? Why aren't more people getting in the trades? We don't teach kids shop classes these days.
Nope.
So let me ask you, what, did you have any shop classes in school?
I did in middle school.
In middle? Okay.
They had taken it away. That's right when they had taken it out of the school.
When I got in high you're school. So much younger than me.
I'm not that much younger.
I just turned 60, so.
Yeah, you got 10 years on me.
Yeah, okay. but I mean, think about it. 10 years in school is a big difference.
Yeah.
Because what we were doing, y'all weren't doing.
Right.
And people today that get out of high school, they don't know woodworking. They don't know metalworking. They don't know how to rebuild an engine. I could rebuild a lawnmower engine.
Right.
In high school, which is great because then later in high school, because I did that like my freshman year. Well, don't get me wrong. I worked with my dad. Worked with my dad.
That's the key.
Oh, we'll touch on that too. I literally, and it wasn't dad walking in saying, "Hey, I got to work on a car. Would you like to come out and help me or anything?"
No, it's get out here and help me.
Yeah, get your shoes on. Come on. It's like, well, wait, what are we doing? He says, "Don't worry about it."
Right.
No, I need to know what to put on. Put jeans on, put your shoes on. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you get out. It's like, what are we doing? Well, we're changing the brakes. Okay. And we didn't have phones back then. Loved my dad to death. Dad would take a piece of paper and draw the brakes to make sure every spring got put back in the right place. When he took a piece apart, he would draw it.
Yeah.
And that way he had it to look up at.
Schematic.
Now we just take a picture, boom, tear it all apart. Okay, wait, how'd it go back in? Or even video it. That way I know what order it came out and play that video backwards. Okay, let's put this part in. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming your dad had you do things around.
Yeah. He, not only that, and I didn't think of it as it wasn't a bad thing to me.
I loved it. I eventually loved it.
But what he taught me was he used to say, Randy, everything you touch, that puts your signature on it. So take pride in what you do.
Absolutely.
And that's how he was. So he would always finish tasks. He wouldn't leave them halfway done. Now I fell back a little bit when I went through my adolescence years, but
yeah, we all do.
That always stuck with me.
So what kind of things did y'all do?
He worked on our sprinkler system all the time. He worked on the cars all the time. We had a swimming pool that he had to always jack with, and always told me never to get a swimming pool when I get my own house when I'm an adult.
Yeah. And you've got one, don't you?
No.
Okay.
No, I'll get a hot tub that's portable.
There you go.
Yeah. I believe it, but now they have companies that come out and do it for you anyway.
Absolutely.
So yeah, he spent so much time out there. It was funny.
We had a pool growing up. Dad pretty much said the same thing, but working on cars, I loved.
I'm not much of a car guy, but I watched him do. I can change oil and change spark plugs and alternator and stuff like that.
And that's really what it was. We changed the brakes. Dad, we would change the brakes in a heartbeat, which was great because, doing that in middle school and the beginning of high school, then you go somewhere with a girl or her brakes are squeaking or grinding or something like that. Hey, you're not going to change those brakes for you. She's like, what?
Right.
It's like, yeah, let's go buy the pads and I can change them for you. They're like, are you serious? It's like, yes, guys coming out of school, and I'm not going to say all, but most people, and I say guys, we had girls in our woodworking class. We had girls in our metal shop class. Like girls in the class rebuilding engines. Like, why do you want to do that?
We had that workshop a few weeks ago, and I had a woman come in and interview on the plumbing side, which I was very thrown back on. And it was pretty interesting.
As an apprentice or
she was an apprentice.
Plumber?
She actually came in and she disclosed when she sat down. She's like, I just want you to know I'm not looking for a job right now. I'm part of the community college in Collin County, and we get extra credit if we come in here and interview for the plumbing job. I said, okay, well, fire away. Ask me anything you want to know. So, and then I got an email from the instructor over there about a week later. You've been there.
Yeah. I know. I was fixing to go into depth.
He took me on the tour and everything else. And I thought that was amazing.
Is that place phenomenal?
I love it. Loved every minute of it.
And I'm sure you told him, hey, any good students you got turned
out. Exactly.
Absolutely. That's what we do these days.
I was trying to create a partnership with him.
You bet.
Yeah.
And he'll let you. He's like, look, come down, visit,
great.
Say hi.
Come in and talk to the class.
Kids. Yeah. That program's phenomenal.
Oh, I love it.
Did he show you like the welding shop?
Yes. He showed me everything.
The freaking automotive. You walk through it, it looks like you're in a Mercedes dealership or something. The floors are painted, the cars, everything. You could eat off the floor. And I'm walking through here thinking, man, why didn't we have this stuff?
Well, one thing that he was talking to us about that I really loved, they have interior decorators there too, the courses for that. They actually give all those people a wheelchair to sit in and roll around in his shop so they can see what it's like to be in a wheelchair when they're designing things.
Wow.
And I thought that was just utterly amazing.
That is neat. I like that. So then you become a journeyman.
Well, I did my tradesman first.
Oh, did you?
Did my tradesman. That's when they had just started the tradesman.
Which is great. So now you're a revenue generating person in 2 years.
For most companies, they could care less if you're a tradesman or a journeyman because it's very little commercial work anyway. And I made the mistake of sitting on my tradesman for way too long.
I feel like I sat on my journeyman for way too long.
And I did that as well. When I got my journeyman, I sat on that and just kind of, I think I was more worried about, I didn't want to fail the masters. I wanted to pass it first shot, no matter what.
I get it.
So I just kept putting it off.
Because I'm the same way. If I'm going to take a test,
I'm doing it once.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't just want to pass it. I want to ace it. I want to know, look, I got this.
Well, I can't say I aced the questions, but
well, and so
ADA got me.
And I get that. But, and luckily I've studied ADA for years because being a commercial plumber. So I get it.
Right.
Or even superintendent, you've got to know every dimension, and you walk in, it's like, whoa, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see it. Because if you got to move that carrier up behind the wall after it's done, when you go to set the toilet and realize we're a half-inch short, it ain't fun then.
There's no wiggle room.
No, there's not. Man, I have fought that because of slope on floors,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, when we're plumbers, we walk in, measure off the floor, boom, imagine there's going to be a tile, yada, yada, yada. Well, then you go in one like, no, we're sloping the floor. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Where does it say that in the specs or anything?
Right.
Somebody who wants to ace every test that now has the masters, the master med gas, the master WSPS, the master residential fire protection systems.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, there's a lot to learn here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely understand. Wait, let's just push this off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I want you to think about this, because this is something I ask a lot of people too. I feel say not just tradespeople, licensed, skilled trades, plumbers, electricians, HVAC techs. We get in the trade to become a plumber.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get our license, we're like, I'm a plumber now.
No, you're not.
Well, we stop learning. We
Mhm.
we stop getting out and educating ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's probably the same?
Yeah.
Why? And look, I did it. I did it. One thing I teach apprentices getting in trades now: never stop learning. Never.
Right.
It's a continuous, and I love that we're with a company now that, look, this is all about learning. That's
Yeah,
all
you don't
it's
have a
about.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that because most companies, all they care about is you having a license to be
Yeah.
legal
Mhm.
and a body. And if you're halfway clean cut and can talk to people, then hey, you got that much more advantage.
More
on it.
credit for you. Yep.
I mean, we both see things today that I'm like, what the crap is that? I need to learn about that. I didn't even know anything about it. And so you jump in it and learn about it. You have to also know when you have things set up for inspection and you get red tagged and the inspector's wrong, you have to have the knowledge to go back and battle
Let me
that.
show you in the book.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
that's exactly what you have to do. And if you don't know, then you'll not catch it and it'll run you out of business because you're having to re-inspect everything.
You better, number one, know that code book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you got to memorize
Well,
it,
you can't memorize
but you got to know how to use it.
Right.
Okay, wait, we're talking vents. Let's go to chapter 9.
Yeah.
And, it may not be chapter 9, I'm just saying, but you've got to be able to go through and say, okay, wait, we're talking potable water here.
Mm-hmm.
Flip to the potable water. Look here, it says this right here.
Well, and another easy way to do that, because my guys call me all the time. They're like, is this going to pass? And I'm like, well, here's the inspector's phone number. Call him and ask him what he's going to be looking for.
Most of those guys are amazing.
That way you're not going to have that problem at all. I mean, he'll know. And plus you'll build a relationship where you can get a good working relationship with them.
I remember plumbing in Garland whenever I first became a journeyman. Willis was the inspector. And luckily, like you said, you'll get to know him.
Mm-hmm.
You'll build that relationship. I remember when I was doing the Dart rail project out off Oates. And I remember when I first started doing it, he'd come out. Now he knew me because I had worked under other plumbers that he knew. So I knew who he was. When he first came out, it's like walk every inch of the job, look at every inch of underground, look at this. By the time we got down to the other end, the last half, it's like,
hands.
He's like, everything good? I'm like, oh yeah, it's good. He's like, or it'd be raining. Stick a inspection green tag out the window. Like, hey, somebody come out here and grab this.
Yeah, once they get to know your work,
You bet.
it's a lot easier. Because I had one when I was pretty green, and it was at Garland. And it was a water heater in a hallway, slab house, didn't have a pan. Well, I put a pan in it and a boiler drain, and he red tagged me. The second I put that pan in, it's required to run a drain line out of the house.
Ooh, and you can't always do that.
I was either going to have to do that or take the pan. I could not understand that.
Yeah.
It just drove me crazy. And you run into those sometimes. I think he was just going by the book, but I mean, some protection's better than none, I would think, but
yeah. No, and I feel the same way. Inspectors nowadays, since we're on the subject of inspectors.
well, I don't want to rag on
No,
them.
I
mean,
don't look that they've got a hard job.
They really do, because you know how egocentric plumbers are anyway.
Mhm.
They're still out there. Some of the old school guys are just caught up on themselves.
Been plumbing 50 years and I ain't changing the way I do it.
You don't know it any better than I do.
Yes.
With our company, I mean, they've been pretty good. And a lot of them, they're third party in it, subbing out.
Oh yeah.
That drives me nuts because you can't really get to know it. And I had one that had red tagged us on something and his license was expired. And I didn't bring it up because we got it we got it handled, but
Oh, I'd have brung it up.
that I was about to, trust me, if he'd have red tagged us again, I would have brought it up.
Isn't it neat to have access to that information too?
Sure. But it's all public info.
Oh, gee, let me look and see.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, bud. You can't red tag me. Your license is expired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I thought it was weird because like my master's license number is another guy's journeyman's number. Have you seen that?
No, but it makes sense.
Hmm.
I mean, it does make sense because I look at what my journeyman number is, 20997. My master is 35105. There's got to be a journeyman with a 35105.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It threw me off the first time I pulled it up. I was like, whoa, wait.
Somebody's got my number.
I know.
Isn't that strange? So you move into rescue air now.
Which I almost didn't.
Why's that?
I really had to debate whether I was going to make that move or not. Because it was a startup.
Yeah.
That it made me very nervous, but after talking to Josh and Michael and the guy and Amber, she was there.
You bet.
It seemed like a pretty good gig.
How's it changed since you started? Because the plumbing was completely new to them.
Yeah.
It was.
It was very hard in the beginning because they didn't speak the language.
Mm-hmm.
What I was trying to tell them and convey to them, they're pure HVAC.
You bet.
And that's what they hear. And it just wasn't clicking with them. Josh has a good friend in New York
You bet.
that had his own company.
Mhm.
It took him coming in and sitting with
Dave.
us and saying, no, he's right. Here's what he's trying to say. And he said, you just don't speak the language, but they're headed in the right way. And I think since then, even if they don't understand what's going on or business wise, they always do. From a plumbing perspective of what I'm trying to do, they just kind of let it go. And on the back end, when it is successful, they're happy about it. So they've given me a little bit of grace there.
Yeah. And it's
trust.
results oriented.
Yeah.
And you get.
And I'm a black and white guy. So, I mean, at the end of the day, either you did it or you didn't, are the numbers there or not?
Yes.
And then if the numbers aren't there.
And me and you've talked about that. How do we make the numbers work?
Right.
Me and you've had that conversation.
Because it was tough. And I've almost got them there.
Yeah,
we're right there at it. So
isn't that amazing to know? Look,
crazy.
It's taken a while to build it.
Yeah.
It's taken a while because you've got to get everybody bought in on the system, not just the guys above you, the guys below you, and you got to sell it to both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough. And to tell somebody, just be patient, you're never going to be able to get that from a business owner to tell them to be patient.
It doesn't change today.
No.
If you're enjoying the Trade Talks, hit that subscribe or follow button, which helps us produce this awesome blue-collar content absolutely free. And now, back to the episode.
So once you get the ownership team bought in, it's good because.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and the more good things you do, the looser that leash gets on your neck,
somewhat in a way,
but not always. I mean,
it's his company.
Yeah. I was fixing to say at the end of the day, it's their business. Like,
right.
Wait, this is what we want.
And I can argue all I want if I want to do something a certain way. And if they're dead set on doing something a different way, it's theirs. It's not mine.
You bet.
And I have to respect that and go that route. Luckily, we really haven't run into much of that at all.
No, because look, they listen.
Yeah.
They're
and
Josh
they do.
and Mike both are good businessmen.
Yeah.
They listen. And it's like, okay, you know what? It's not just, look, this is why we're doing it, just because I said so.
Right. They'll explain.
Was there a good reason behind it? No, just I'm saying so. They're not like that.
No, they'll explain to you and break it down for you and tell you why. And that's another thing that there's so few companies out there. Everything that Michael and Josh have told me, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. This is what you can expect. It's always been spot on.
You bet.
I mean, they are men of their word.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I truly respect that.
You were brought in at a bad time because
you think
there might have been a different management team on the plumbing side before you got in that wasn't good for the guys.
No,
I'm going to put it that way.
Yeah.
The ones above or below.
Right.
You walked into a situation where,
it was a hornet's nest.
Yeah. I was getting calls from plumbers like, look, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just always try to do the right thing. Yeah. But we've been told not to do the right thing.
That was short-lived though.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, not short enough, but I mean, it was long enough that there were problems.
Well, it was long enough to where they were about to nix the whole,
Oh, I know.
Let's get rid of plumbing.
The good thing is it's turned around. It looks pretty good now.
Yeah.
It looks real good.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at in life anyway. I mean, I'm looking at legacy. I want to be able to look back and say, hey, I was part of that and I built that and had all, I mean, I have all the support you could possibly get.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in a lot of companies don't have that.
No.
Again, that's why it's a great spot to be in.
Yeah.
Every manager can't walk into a situation, almost startup, like you said. It's them starting up a whole new division. They bought Texas Green Plumbing, so they had plumbing supplies, materials, tools, yada, 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 vans, people. But to change everything over from the way Texas Green Plumbing did it to the way Rescue Air does it. And I was open with Josh and him when I walked out. I said, look, here's my numbers. I don't run the business right. I know that. I understand plumbing. And I think every job we've ever done, we've done right. Except for a few plumbers that we had.
That always happens.
It does. I mean, you go back and look at pictures, it's like, wait, when did I have a plumber put shark bite in? You know?
What's wrong with that?
And where he did, I can't even complain. It's on the TMP line, but I'm still like, that's not.
You know that constitutes a union?
I believe that. Yeah, it does. It makes sense. I had it worked into my pricing when we sold the Rescuer. I had enough money to have an apprentice on every truck. When we moved over, like Eli, who's in HVAC now, was an apprentice. Kyle was an apprentice. Moved up, got his tradesman, did really good, and then moved, and then left.
We still text back and forth.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
That.
Yeah, love him to death. Him, his wife, his daughters. Oh my gosh. When you move up to management, number one, you've got to want to be a good plumber. And I don't just mean them. I mean you to get to that point. You've got to know what you're talking about. You don't just walk in and, hey, Randy, I got a problem here. We'll figure it out. No, that's not the right way to do it. But there's a lot of people, a lot of managers that way. Now, I've had plumbers that call me. They're like, man, I'm in the middle of this. I got a problem here. What it is? Like, okay, wait a minute. You go up there and you look at it again. You figure it out, and then you call me back. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like the answer's staring at you.
Right. I think they overcomplicate things too many times. You just got to make it very easy.
You know, talking Kyle called me one day. He's up on the roof. He said, man, look, I've been up here half a day. I'm stopping straight. I can't get it. I said, okay. I said, look around the roof. Is there another vent coming up through the roof? I know the answer. He's like, well, yeah. It's okay. Is there a bigger one coming up through the roof? He said, yeah. I said, have you tried going down that? And he said, no, it's not the line that's clogged. I said, I understand that.
Put a camera down.
It's not where it's showing up. I said, while you're up there, run your cable down it. Calls me back in 15 minutes. He's like, dude, I got it. I said, okay. What'd you learn today? He said, don't just assume it's down one spot. So it's like, look, it's all tied together. It's just a different way to get there, depending on where the clog is. So it was neat.
Yeah.
And it's that aha. It's like, man, why didn't I think about that?
Right.
You will next time.
Yeah.
And
yeah. It's a learning. I mean, and that's the good thing about the group I have is we don't have any ego in the group at all. So all these guys, if they have questions, they're calling back and forth, and all my guys will help each other. And I love that. And I always preach to them, like, don't get hung up on a job all day.
Yeah.
Because you can't figure it out.
Yeah.
If you're there an hour and can't get it figured, you better be on the phone with me or one of your coworkers to try to help you get through it.
You bet. Yeah. I love that. You happy you're still at Rescuer?
Oh yeah.
And I know we've had the conversations like, Roger, look, this is my last job. This is
it is my last job.
No, I love it, but I mean, you knew that coming in. You're like, look, I'm not just taking this job to see if I like it. I'm taking this job because look, I'm gonna make this work.
That's where I want to retire from.
Yeah,
and if not, I'll go out on my own. Yeah.
If you could go back, the first day you walked out of your house, before you ever dug the grease trap, and meet, I started to say little Randy, but you weren't little. Meet younger Randy walking out the front door, lunchbox in hand, paper bag in hand, whatever you had with you. You walk out that front door and you're standing there right now. What would you tell Randy that day based on what you know right now? It's
interesting you say that because the very first company I worked for, there's so many things in plumbing. I mean, you can't be awesome at every single thing that you run into. You know, there's just too many different aspects of it. Pick one or two things and be great at it and concentrate on those two areas. And that's what I would say. It took me too long. I wasted a lot of years trying to just go through the motions. I mean, just going to work every day and going home. Once I started really tapping in on learning some of the stuff on a few things. It made it fun. I mean, because I was the go-to guy at that point. You know, if problem with your tankless, they were sending me out there, you know, because I wanted to learn everything there was about it.
And most plumbers are afraid of tankless water heaters.
Yeah, it depends on who you talk to, but some of them hate them. I mean, I've got guys on my staff that don't, you know, they're like, I don't know that much about them. And that's what I said. You need to learn.
That's why they hate them. and, you know, I've had this conversation with manufacturers. Why don't plumbers sell more tankless water heaters? They don't know them enough.
They don't know. But if you learn one, they're all basically built the same. I mean, everybody puts their little signature on it, but
if somebody wanted to get in touch with you and talk about going to work at Rescue Air, how can they get in touch with you?
Just call our office. I mean, they'll let me know, let our HR guy know, and we'll get you in and interview you and go from there.
Randy Carpenter, this has been fun.
It has been. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.